Okay, so we're learning the Zohar Matok Midvash on Parashat Mishpati. We've been discussing the concept of GILGUL, and the position of the Zohar is that GILGUL is a bad thing, not a good one. It's purses, that is, in terms of the person's own pain. Better to go to Gehenna, spend a year or 11 months, however they say it, in Gehenna, be washed and bathed in the fire of your own sins, and come out to Gan Eden. But everybody can't do that, get to that position, and instead we wind up in a GILGUL, coming back into a different body, in a different place, in a different time, to try to achieve a tikkun that we missed the first time we were in the world, or to correct that the avera that we did at that time. So let's come over here and let's read the Matok Midvash has done us a favor here and brought us into a little intro. So, Inyan, who the secret of this is ki hazivuk ha'na'as b'mei ha'chol. When you have yichud with your married couple, they had during the weekdays mashpia nefesh ma'ofen. So this is the phrase. It says it causes a neshama to be born. I use the word neshama. He used the word nefesh, and it's important, as we are going to see. Mashpia nefesh ma'ofen, from the wheel. So what he said, what is the wheel? The wheel is Olam Asiyah. That's the world that we live in. It's the world of balls, the world of circles, and the world of cycles. So all these things are round. And as a result of that, the Iker, the Kabbalists want to point out to us, is that the main idea is revolving. And we're talking about a GILGUL. So he says, as we understand that, is that the nefesh comes from Olam Asiyah, or it resides there. A person's ruach is related to Mesitra, the Eved, comes to the side of the Eved, which is Olam Yetzirah. The neshama comes from Olam Abriya. So since this seed is impregnating, or it's impregnating seed, let's say, so to speak, something like that, during the weekday, which is a weekday of work, it's a day that we have to work. So therefore, when it rolls, like once again, this GILGUL is a concept of a rolling. He says, when it rolls back into this world again, pamacheres, the person has to work. Now, I'm not sure exactly what that means, but that is the neshama of the person, of the nefesh. If we're talking about whatever it is, the nefesh of the ruach, it gets indentured to some extent because the nature of this world, maybe that's what teaching is about Matot, is that you have to work. Work is the concept of 6. That is the 6 days of the week. The 7th day is a day of Shabbos, a whole different story. So shehi ozeres as adam b'derishos of the varim. So since it helps a man with understanding the rules, the boundaries of the things of Gashmias, also called malacha b'chol, malacha is a whole. So therefore, that person is going to work 6 days. V'yesh b'cha shivad yisurim of choloyim. V'dalos, v'tilto, v'tarof, let's go to the word. That person is indentured, he has to work. And pain, he has that too. Working is hard. V'choloim, he gets sick. V'dalos, he loses money. He becomes impoverished. V'tilto, v'tarof, and the person is taken away, torn up. It's a hard world. V'hin the levis of an nifgemis, so this person is insulted, beaten, nifgemis, al yedei devarim hagashmim umasim mukuarim, because of the nature, the normal way of this world is a world of pain, umasim, and bad deeds. It's the world of the Yetzirah. V'chein efsher shedeshama zultis galgul kama pamim ad shetisuka. So then this could be that this nefesh is going to have to come back many times He calls it a neshama over here. Kamba paramim ad shetis soken, so until it becomes masukin. Amnam haziva ganaasa b'Shabbos, but let's switch it another way. So we see, but if the yichud takes place on Shabbos, mashpia nefesh d'Atzilus, then the nefesh, that is the bottom part of the light of the Ein Sof Baruch Hu, in the olam of Atzilus, which is a great, tremendous taste of infinity. Bas Melech Malchus. It causes the nefesh to come from Atzilus, which is the place of the princess of Malchus. Adam shezochel the nefesh d'Atzilus. So if you have a nefesh d'Atzilus, afilu aviim tizgagol ein bo shivud avon v'lo malacha. Now, I'm not sure what Shivud Avad means. He's not going to have to indenture himself in order to correct his sins. And he doesn't have to really work. Sounds like work to make a living. I'm not sure. But actually becomes completed as a result of the Maisa Adav, of the work of man, B'Torah v'mitzvahs. So it becomes perfected that way. The person becomes a big Talmud Chacham. He becomes recognized by everybody for his purity. So he says, so it doesn't stand there as has to work. So it's, let me translate. I don't like the way I translate it. He doesn't stand where he has to do all this work. Or he has like time to hang out in bars or whatever it takes to get onto the other side. Ella muvtahu shelo yechte, but it's proven, it's promised to this person that he will not sin. Because he is such a high level of truth, the truth of the Olam Atzilus, that she'ein ched ba'al yado, the chet does not come through him. So he said, let's so that God forbid that the person comes, now he's going to do an Aveira. The neshama will leave and it will run away from him. It should not become corrupted, that's not the right word, in made filthy as a result of that sin. So this is the neshama, that's that pure part of that person who will run away. And that's why it says it goes out free. He owes nothing. What does that mean? Pirush is gagul elapam achas. Now, this seems like a little bit out of place in what I was thinking, but he says, but it's this, that this is his chance. And he has one chance. Now, what this had to do with the neshama, the running away? So it says about this neshama that he only comes one time. Because when it does come, it's going to come in Shiva v'Torach. Now, I think maybe he means a person who has a high level of neshama. He fell in this world, which certainly could happen. Ella pam achas v'gam oz who believe Shiva v'Torach, and also this person is without having to be enslaved. He's going to come back. And he's going to be the same neshama that was really a neshama from Olam Atzilus. V'im lo nesaken b'pam azos, and if the person, as a result of this, it doesn't affect the tikkun, lo yisgalgul sheni, he's not going to come back again. Eli yakabel onsho b'gehenim, but he'll have to be punished in Gehenim. So it seems like he's contrasting. Person whose neshama is born on Shabbos. In other words, the yichud of his parents are on Shabbos, and in other places it says after midnight is the best time. This has the greatest chance of producing this kind of neshama. But let's say the neshama falls. He makes a chet. This neshama is not coming back again into this world, but instead, it was such a high level. It had just to do some tikkun that neshama, that's all it needed to be reach perfection. Now it'll have to go through Gehenim, the fires of Gehenim, and come out. Come back in again, and not come back in again. So let's go to this piece that I really wanted to start with. we have a background, more understanding of the concept of neshama. Neshamas come, our neshamas, our pneumioses, come from different places, from different hidden worlds. We have the world of the number 72, the world of the numbers 63, 45, and 19. 45 and 52. Okay, so let's go on. Adahoki hos Saba nachas the gabe. Mitoch kach, so Rebbe Shimon is busy talking about Gilgul. Yarda el Rebbe Shimon nishmas ish zakeh, the neshama of an old man. It's called the Saba. Began Aden from the Garden of Eden. Why did this come to Rebbe Shimon? The says for the says that start arguing back and forth with him, Barazi Torah and secrets of Torah. In other words, to get into discussion and compare ideas. Amalei the Rebbe Shimon. So he said the Rebbe Rebbe. So Rebbe. So I guess he's speaking to him like, okay, he says Rebbe. Im came Rebbe. He says my Rebbe. Shamarta sheneshama dechatzila mishemisgalgelas ein bacha balacha v'shiva. Now this is the statement you made. He says, and he's going to argue with Rebbe Shimon. He says that you said that a person has a neshama that comes from Olam Atzilus, he winds up rolling back down into our world. So understand that the idea of Gilgul goes along this way. He said it before. This is called the world of wheels, because cycling is part of our world. We'd like to get out of the cycle. Shivas galgelas ein bacha malacha v'shivut. That the neshama will never have to work or be indentured to have to make a living. That's what it sounds like to me. Mato sefes the neshama de'ihi mino. He says mato sefes v'yisron. So how does it help a neshama? Yesh neshama shehi ma'atzilas. It comes from Eliezer Yosem the neshamas. So what's a special thing? I guess is what he's saying about this neshama that come from Atzilus. Why you pick that up? Why about a neshama from the olamos of Bria Yitzir and Asiya? Shahar Kosav Hishva as Kulam Malachos, because all of them, the pasuk really indicates we're talking about all of them. The Itmar brother says in regard to this, Lo ta'asa kol malacha atahu bedecha b'techo. This is going to Shabbos now. Shehem romazim al naran. So this particular phrase, Lo ta'asa kol malacha atahu bedecha b'techo. That's you, your son, and your daughter. Shehem romazim al naran shal atzilus. So this is really a remiss to the nefesh, ruach, and neshama of olam atzilus. He says, ata, you, hainu neshama bebina. So the word ato means neshama that comes from bina. Ubinacha ruach mitat, from the olam yitzira. Ubitacha nefesh b'malchus. As the nefesh comes from malchus. And then after that it says like this: your male servants, your female servants, and your animals. Shem Ramozim also to Naran, the Olamos Bia of the Olamos of Bia, Avdachal, Haina Ruach Mitzad Eved Mitat. So Avdachal is the Eved, and again we're trying to understand what is the Avdus of Olam Mitzira, signaled by the name Matat. V'amaschal neshama bebria is a neshama from Bria. So he wants to put it on the side. He says, if you're wondering about this, v'chi shapasav medaber im anashim, since the subject is really male, v'chem makdim eved la'ama, kamosh makdim ben nabas. So the same thing. Therefore, he puts the male first. He said nefesh that an animal is a nefesh. And all of them, it says, do not do any work. Hainu, she is that even if they reincarnated, they roll back into this world again. Lo yishta'avd, that person will not be mishta'aved, enslaved to have to work. Now, this question about have to work, and the thing is that the have to work is referring to Shabbos, where we don't work. Is that what it's referring to? Because he brought it up. But this is a big piece. So exactly where it's going, I don't know yet. All of them, it says, you don't do any work on Shabbos, no matter where the neshama comes from. That even if it's a reincarnation, it's not going to be forced to work. Now, again, he's contrasting the Shabbos. I'm a little confused about what he means forced to work. Not sure what this work idea is, because I know that we have to work in order to make a living. So that's where I see it. Hare anu roam shagam and neshamas debia. So we see that also the neshamas, they come from olam abia, olam bia, bri yitzir nesiya. Hanimshach and mezivug yimosachol, and where do they come from? A yichud that takes place during the weekday. Shavos and the neshamas dachatzilas, they're all the same. They have the same categories where he was talking about neshama from Bina, Binacha from Tiferes, and Bitacha from the Nefesh. Tiferes is the Ruach of Tiferes. So Hanimshach and Mezivug Shal Leil Shabbos, which all flow down as a result of the Yichud that takes place on the night of Shabbos. So according to what we see that you said, Shadafka Neshama Chatzilus Ein B'Chashiva Malacha, that it's only the nefesh from Atzilus that has no Shivud Malacha. Now, I'm still a little bit confused, and we're being it, and why? Because when is the time? He doesn't mean that you don't have to. That's why I originally thought that he meant that you're a Talmud Chacham and they have a said Taraso Umanaso, that his study of Torah is his livelihood, meaning that's what he does. It's sufficient money or whatever he needs to be a scholar. So, whatever. Now we're going on. Amala Rebbe Shimon Saba. Old man, the grandpa. Ba'at Shail Do bit me. He says, this is a question you're asking? V'chi ish gado kamocho yishal shaila gazo. I mean, you're the neshama from Olam Haba. The vadai hailo nishbesach the tzadik itman. The vadai called pasuk there, that all this pasuk, which pasuk is he talking about? Okay, we'll see. Shall zalot the ansach bekal malacha ne'emet rock al neshama the chatzilus. It's only talking about one. How do you know that? Shabo min hayisod nikvat tzadik, that comes from tzadik. So this is the phrase. He says the vadai high al nishbas the tzaddik. It's a neshama that comes from the tzaddik. He said the tzaddik refers to of yisod, which is the yichud of zohar benog. The afal gav the is chayav la'achzach begilgul b'kol ilin. Ki afal pi shenes chayva, that the person is chayiv, obligated or guilty, and as a result of that, the red is begilgul, come back into a gilgul again, roll back in. Lehislavish b'kol elu b'nei adam, to calls himself in all of these different men. Now this is getting a little confusing. What different men? Hainu alfilu be'eved, even into an eved, which means yesh lo ruach the yitzira, that is a person as a ruach, that's the dominant force that relates to his neshama. So let me go back into this again. Inside of the neshama, which is a category of light, it is the light of Panemius. There is also Naranchi, that is a nefesh, ruach, neshama, chayin, yechida. So particularly that in that particular aspect, Mishiyesh lo ruach the yitzira. So his ruach, that is the dominant light force that's inside of this person, is coming from olam the yitzira. Va'ama, also when he says a female servant, neshama the bria, that's a neshama from a higher level, and that's where he had said before, well, they made the male first, even though the neshama is actually in a higher level, and that's the ama. Ube'iran, and then animals, but behemoths the horus, clean animal, the animals that Jewish people can eat. The Inan Ofanim, they actually represent wheels. Shehem Nefesh Da'asiyah. This is a nefesh of the Shia. See, the thing about this world is that it's constantly cycling, and what you see in the concept of Gilgul is that the Gilgul is a concept of a recycle. No matter what you say, every morning is going to be a new day. It's just constantly new. Every moment is a new moment. So he said, Shehem Nefesh Da'asiyah. The nefesh of Itziyah is made out of cycles of wheels. Shehem Sod Malachi Asira, which is the secret of the energy that makes Asiya work and work the way that it does. Oba B'kol Chaven, Haidol B'arba Chayus HaKodesh Ba'ar, we're talking about a different level, not just the level of wheels. We're talking about a level of communication to a world beyond, which comes to the Chayav HaKodesh, that are found in both Yitzira and Bria. So he says, the minchon nishmasim de b'nei nosha, because from these places are where neshamas come from. Shemechem yared is neshamas of b'nei adam, la'edel shenoldoch u'mezivug shal yamel sechol, and these are the places that the neshamas of people come from the fact that their parents had a yichud during the weekday. K'siv ba, it's written in regards to this, Ben neshama de'atzilus, with the neshama that comes from the kazushi yardav and this love sheba'eda b'nei adam, that this actually can happen. Now, I don't understand it because of the sequencing. First, I thought that he's saying that a person is born pure and let's say he achieves 99%, they have to come back into the world to do that 1%. That's the kind of thought what I thought. Now he's saying something else, though. He's saying there are what'd you say, living Niran, Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, coming from higher that are inside of other people's, they're the Neshamas of human beings. So he says that this Nefesh from Olam Yitzira, Olam Atzilus, this Nefesh from Olam Atzilus will come in to those neshamos that are coming from the lower worlds, from Bia, Bria, Yitzir, and Asiya. Seems a little hard for me. Lo sa'asacha kol malacha, they should not do any work. Hainu, shelo yishta'ava b'malacha, they should not be like slaves that never have a day off. Vein kavanas akasa the hashvos kol min the shamas yachad, and the kavana of the pasuk is not to try to make all of the shamas seem like they're one entity or one level. Elo pasuk b'daber el adam sheyesh lo naran, but the pasuk is talking about a man who has a nefesh, a ruach, and neshama. That's the way it is. Inside of the neshama is a ruach, and inside of the ruach, I said it wrong. He said the neshama is inside of the ruach, and the ruach is inside of the nefesh. So when you have a neshama, you have the other two altogether. These are the oros that come in, because the oros pinimim, that come into a human being or anything. And it winds up being clothed, this nefesh that we're talking about, that gets clothed in people who have a neshama from Bia. Now, it seems like a really big idea. He's mean to say like this, I have a neshama from Olam HaRuach. And that in some way, and I think he's talking about Shabbos, that this will actually come into me, this neshama, and I'll have a neshama from Olam Yitzira, but at the same time that I'll have a nefesh added onto that, or a neshama added onto that from Olam Atzilus. Is that what's talking about Shabbos? I'm guessing, but I don't know. V'hai ihu v'zechu sod masha kosav lo sa'avod bo avodas avid, who will not do the work of a slave. Now here we get to it more clearly. This is really talking about the tzaddik. The tzaddik, also known as the day of Shabbos. The neshama d'atzilus, when we're talking about a neshama d'atzilus, and this is really where we're talking about the panemius of the godliness within a person. Shenim shalom yisod, that comes out of the yisod, and another word for yisod is nikra tzaddik. Shehi neshama shal yom haShabbos, which is the neshama of the day of Shabbos. The yichud shal leil Shabbos comes from the yichud that takes place at that time. Alav ne'emar, this time it says, lo sa'avad bo avodas of it. Do not work it. Work in the shama like the avodas of an evet. So what does he mean, evet? Kolomer hagam shenim keres besod hal gilgul. The evet said, even though we know that this person, we're talking about a person now, but let's see how the metaphor, he's working a difficult metaphor for me. Shenim keres besoda gilgul, that is sold, and that selling of the person is the metaphor for gilgul. Le'evet, to be born into this world, which is a world of work. Haila the misha yesh b'ruach the yitzira. The Yeva ruach comes from yitzira. Im kol zechel lo yishta'aven b'she'ivel malacha kamo eved. Even so, you will not be forced to work like a slave. Kamo eved, like a slave. The ihu yom dechol, which is the weekdays where you have to work. So he's contrasting in the middle of this discussion is this neshama of the Saba that came here to speak. Is coming to throw little arguments in this conversation of Rebbe Shimon. He said the Uhu Yom Dechol, so it's in the daytime that the neshama was created, the weekday. Shuhu neshama chabocha mezivug shel yomel sachol. Shuhu tzarak lehistaking, so that neshama needs a tikkun. Ayidei shiva melacha, through what? Having to work. So we're going to see what that's all about. Maybe we'll look a little bit more tomorrow with God's help. This is the Tikkun Elevator Kolo, and you're listening to Baruch Fleischman.